the boss on the line, the one and only Senate Majority Leader. He is the boss. Tommy Norment. Senator, good to have you with us, sir.
Good morning, John. It's great to be with you, and I don't think anybody's ever called me the boss. I try to be obedient and do what people tell me most of the time.
Well, as you know, Senator, for those that we love here on the John Fredericks Show, we have certain nicknames, like Dick Saslow's the Godfather, and you are the boss, and we have many, many others, but you're the boss. So that's your code name here on the John Fredericks Show. We just say the boss is coming on, and everybody knows exactly who it is. We didn't have time to play your theme song, though, because I know we're short on time today. Look, you guys put out a press release yesterday, Senator Norment, asking for Governor McAuliffe to convene a special session concerning what you claimed is his totally unconstitutional act restoring all felons' voting rights. Can you elaborate what you're trying to do in this special session to our audience, and why you think, as a very noted lawyer, and I may add to our listening audience, Senator Norment is also a law professor at William & Mary, so he knows a little bit about constitutional law. Why is what Terry McAuliffe did unconstitutional, and what will convening a special session do?
Well, first of all, I would start by saying, John, it was a very shrewd political antic that the governor did by announcing this mass exoneration of 206,000 previously convicted felons. The interesting thing was that he did it 2 days after the entire General Assembly had been in Richmond. He did not share any of that information with any of the leadership of the General Assembly that I am aware of. And it's very similar to a pattern that President Obama has demonstrated. If you can't work with the legislative body and the legislative body will not give that which you insist on, then just circumvent them by issuing an executive order. And when you issue the executive order, the only option available to people is, say, sue me. And obviously stirring up litigation like that is not preferable with this venue. There's a couple of really troublesome things about what the governor did. First of all, there have been two previous opinions that have been offered by the Attorney General's office and by a former attorney to Governor Kane, indicating that this mass exoneration of convicted felons is not acceptable, that it is not prudent, nor is it consistent with the constitutional mandate on it. A second issue associated with it is that while the governor does have the constitutional authority to issue clemency, it has historically been done on an individual basis. And in fact, the Constitution provides that the governor is supposed to inform the General Assembly of the action that he has taken and the particulars of it. As of this moment, there has not been any information or reporting by the governor to the General Assembly. We have a conundrum. Either he doesn't know who these 206,000 felons are, or if he does know who they are, why would he be reticent or hesitant to disclose that information unless he intends to use it for some political purpose? So the purpose of Speaker Howell and myself calling for a special session is to give the public some input on what the governor has done and to insist that he inform the General Assembly as he is constitutionally required. I think it's a fair subject for a public debate. I was a little taken back by a comment that was attributed to the governor in the media by saying it's none of the General Assembly's business.
Yes.
I think it is our business. What you're talking about is two very important things at a minimum. First of all, you're going to have convicted felons who are now eligible to sit on juries. Jurors are selected from the registered voting list. So can you imagine having a jury trial on something as horrible as a murder case and having a convicted murderer sitting on that jury? That would certainly raise some concerns. But a bigger issue that really was very prevalent in the General Assembly during this 2016 session dealt with guns. And under Virginia's law, once the civil liberties of a convicted felon have been restored, then that formerly convicted felon has the right to petition to have the Second Amendment rights restored. So the first threshold for 260,000 convicted felons has been crossed, and now they're eligible to petition the circuit court to have the Second Amendment's right restored. Unfortunately, because of the governor's action, these circuit court judges have no guidance. They have no information whatsoever as to why the civil liberties of these convicted felons should be restored. So there's a quick tutorial on it, and it just is a highly, highly unusual action by a governor. And when you come down to the bottom line of it, it's got to be done for political purposes, and anybody who can't see through that charade needs to get a new pair of spectacles.
All right, so Senator Norment, basically what you're saying is, look, the Constitution says a couple of things in Virginia. Number one, it does cede the authority to the executive branch, in this case Governor McAuliffe, to give individuals to restore their voting rights after being convicted and serving their time of a felony. But what your argument is that the way the Constitution is written, it's meant to be on a case-by-case basis, not just one blanket signature that covers everybody, right? I mean, that's basically the gist of what you're saying. And the other thing is, you look, and I have been very critical of the way Governor McAuliffe did this, which was the day after the veto session's over, the General Assembly is adjourned, they can get no feedback. He does a press conference on a Friday, gets on an airplane, goes over the pond, leaves for Germany and Europe the day after, not available for comment. That didn't look good to me. The timing of this looked very suspect. I do agree that we have to assimilate ex-felons back into society, and voting is a part of that. I thought the timing of it was highly political and highly suspect. I've been critical of that because I think had he did this on November 10th of 2016, it would have looked a little different. Still would be unconstitutional, but I think you got a lot of issues here that are getting people to scratch their heads. Two other things you mentioned. One, I think, is a red herring. Just my opinion. You said that, well, they can serve on juries. Well, as you know, though, Senator, that's not really accurate because in order to serve on a jury, you have to be authorized by the prosecutor and the defense. That would never happen in that circumstances. So that's not real. But I think the other thing that you brought up, which is, you know, what would stop any of these felons from petitioning for their Second Amendment right? I don't know how you would be able to stop that if they just got this other right. I mean, I think that should be concerning to anybody.
Well, I would hope that that regardless of where you fall on the Second Amendment rights, that both sides would just be outraged at this. And, you know, as far as the jury is concerned, you and I would just have a respectful difference of perspective. Jurors are selected from a registered voting list. And what is the question lingering out there is that you're picking a jury, whether the prosecutor or the defense attorney would even be able to ask a prospective juror if they had ever been convicted of a felony. That issue is far from being cleared up.
That makes sense. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. So that's another one of these issues. So what happens now? Look, the governor's not going to convene a session in order to debate this. Otherwise, he would have introduced it when you guys were in session and gals. Instead, he waits until after everybody goes home because he knew he was going to get the backlash on it. So he's not going to convene this special session. So what happens now?
Well, it's surprising to me that he just summarily rejected it through his spokesperson. This governor is supremely self-confident, and he has repeatedly said in the media what he did was right and within his authority, and that we need to reintegrate these convicted felons into society. I don't think there are many people that disagree with the latter point.
Right.
But if he's so confident, why does he object to having a public discourse about it when, in fact, he is supposed to report to the General Assembly on what he has done? It would not surprise me that the next move would be that the Speaker of the House of Delegates and myself would see if we could call upon the members of the House and the members of the Senate to call a special session. That would take 2/3 of each of the bodies, and that would be an interesting question to put out there. I'm certain that the governor would encourage his Democratic colleagues to resist that, but I have to believe that there are Democrats in the House and Senate who have a compelling conscience and just do not think this passes a constitutional test, passes a smell test, or is in the best interest of the public policy of Virginia.
So I think you would get 2/3 in the House. I really do. I know you need 67, right?
Yes, sir.
You got 66 Republicans. I think you have a shot at that. You'll never get 2/3 in the Senate. So there's 39 senators now because of Senator Miller's passing. So you would need 26. You got 21. You need another 5 Dems. Isn't going to happen. So is there a legal avenue, Senator, you guys can pursue in order to maybe get one of the federal courts involved and issue a stay? How does that work?
Well, there are a number of legal options that are available. First, finding the individual to initiate the lawsuit would be the first step, and that would probably come in the form of a registrar who is declining perhaps to register someone. But the greater issue on it is the economy of it. It easily, going into the federal court, could run $250,000 in attorney's fees. Mm-hmm. And the governor knows that, and he knows that neither the House of Delegates nor the Senate has those type of resources to be battling this within the court systems, particularly in the midst of a very contentious election year where the Republican Party of Virginia and the Republican members of the General Assembly are doing what they can to help our respective candidates. So from a legal standpoint of initiating litigation that probably would have to go all the way to the Supreme Court, I just don't see it as financially feasible, and I think the governor certainly knows that.
Okay, so Senator, legally not really an option. The governor knows that. So a lot of us think that even though it was the right thing to do, it was certainly the wrong way to do it. A lot of us think that this is simply aimed at getting people registered that are likely to vote Democratic to help Hillary Clinton win Virginia in November of 2016. But it seems, Senator, from what you're saying, that your last option is to get another 5 Democratic senators and 1 Democratic member of the House in order to vote to convene the session in order to debate this issue. That seems to be the only realistic option, and that's a long shot, right? So
that is a long shot, John, but I think the issue is so important that we need to take a long shot. We need to find any viable alternative that there is out there. And I just, once again, I'm repeating myself, I don't know what anyone is afraid of about having a public dialogue by the representatives of Virginians, because I expect that, if a poll was taken that while many Virginians believe we need to reintegrate felons, this is not the way to do it. And I hear all this information coming out of the executive branch about the new Virginia way. We need a new Virginia way. Well, if this is a new Virginia way, I got to tell you, it sucks.
Well, if it's unconstitutional, then it does suck. You're absolutely right. And I think a lot of us are just sick of these executive orders. To be honest with you, we've got through enough of them. That's why you have an elected body. That's why you have a General Assembly. And again, I see the argument. I do want to I'm a big believer in getting felons associated with society so that our recidivism can go down. And I think that's the right thing to do. But I really think this was a political episode. I've just got to ask you this other question. It seems like every time your relationship with the governor seems to get a little bit better. It just seems to maybe things are getting better. Then we get one of these things. I mean, how is this going to affect your and the Republicans' relationship with the governor when he convenes basically his lame duck session in 2017? I mean, when you think the relationship can't get worse, it does.
Well, he does have a proclivity to straining the relationship with the legislative branch just when we're hopeful that things are thawing and improving a little bit. In the minds of many of us, and not because the governor has said anything, but in the minds of many of us, we think that the governor fully expects to be in Washington, D.C. next year if Hillary Clinton is elected president. So, therefore, he really does not have to be concerned about what the disposition of the General Assembly is or whether or not he needs to work with them on an amicable basis because he just won't be there.
Well, I guess that is the goal, and maybe like you're saying, Senator Norment, he doesn't really care one way or the other because he figures at the end of the day, so what? I'm not going to be there anyway. Clinton will be president, and I'll be Secretary of Commerce or something else. Your relationship with former senator from the Eastern Shore in Norfolk, District 6, Ralph Northam, the lieutenant governor, who would then become governor if indeed that scenario played out. How was your relationship and your Senate caucus's relationship with Ralph?
President Northam and I are good friends, and we have a commonality, and both of us went to VMI.
Right.
It's just we have a divergence when it comes to politics that does not in any way contaminate our personal relationship. I think that if Ralph Northam became the interim governor of Virginia, he's going to find himself in a very awkward spot because one of the first questions that's going to be presented to him is, do you support Governor McCullough's exoneration of 206,000 convicted felons? And he's going to find himself in a dilemma because I think a majority of Virginians do not approve of the way that it is done, but yet he's got to continue to appeal to the Democratic base in Virginia and be supportive of his former boss, the governor. So that's just one of a number of conundrums that Ralph Northam will have. But that's all conjecture right now, and we'll just have to see how it plays out, John.
Well, I don't think it is going to play out because I think Trump is going to beat Hillary. And so unless Donald Trump offers him a job as Commerce Secretary, you're going to be stuck with him in Virginia, in Richmond through 2017. That's what I believe. Senator, the boss, Tommy Norment, always good to have you with us, and keep fighting. Keep fighting.
I will. Thank you, John.
You're
it's
a fighter.
Great to be with you.
All right. It's good to be with the boss.